There are stories that entertain us, stories that inspire us, and then there are stories that warn us. This is one of them. Long ago, in colonial India, an old holy man placed a powerful curse upon an ordinary monkey's paw. He believed that no one should tamper with fate, and that anyone who tried would learn a terrible lesson. Years later, that cursed relic found its way into the hands of an English soldier, and on one stormy night, he carried it to the home of an old friend. Rain lashed against the windows of the White family's small cottage. Thunder rolled across the countryside. Inside, however, the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. A cheerful fire crackled in the fireplace. Mrs. White knitted peacefully beside the hearth. At the dining table, Mr. White and his grown-up son, Herbert, were locked in yet another game of chess.
Careful, Father. You're walking straight into my trap.
Mr. White studied the board confidently, moved his bishop. A second later, Herbert captured his queen. Herbert burst into laughter.
That's the third time this week.
Mrs. White looked up from her knitting.
One day you'll learn not to underestimate him.
Mr. White pretended to grumble.
I'm beginning to suspect the two of you are conspiring against me.
The room filled with laughter. Outside, the storm grew fiercer. Suddenly, 3 heavy knocks echoed through the cottage. Herbert jumped to his feet.
That'll be Sergeant Major Morris.
He opened the door. A blast of icy wind swept into the room. Standing outside was a tall, broad-shouldered man wrapped in a rain-soaked military coat. His thick grey moustache dripped with rainwater. His face was weathered by years of travel. But what caught Herbert's attention wasn't the storm. It was Morris's eyes. They looked like the eyes of a man carrying memories he wished he could forget.
Morris, come in before this weather blows you back to India.
The two old friends laughed and shook hands. Mrs. White quickly poured him a cup of hot tea. As they settled beside the fire, Morris began sharing stories from his years in India, of vast jungles, ancient temples, elephants, and strange customs that fascinated Herbert. Then, Mr. White noticed a small leather pouch hanging from Morris's belt.
What's that you've brought back? Another souvenir?
Morris's smile faded. Slowly, he kept the pouch on the table and untied it. Herbert leaned forward.
That's the ugliest souvenir I've ever seen.
Nobody laughed. Morris simply stared at the paw. Then he spoke quietly.
It grants 3 wishes, but every wish comes with a price.
The laughter vanished. Only the fire continued to crackle. The little monkey's paw rested in Sergeant Major Morris's hand. No one spoke. Even Herbert, who usually found humor in everything, couldn't take his eyes off the strange little relic.
3 wishes? Surely you don't expect us to believe that.
Morris gave a weary smile.
I didn't either, until I made mine.
The room fell silent again. Herbert leaned forward.
You mean you've actually used it?
Morris nodded slowly.
An old fakir enchanted it to prove that no one can escape fate. 3 different people may each make 3 wishes, but every wish comes at a terrible price. The first owner used his final wish to ask for death.
Mrs. White instinctively looked at the monkey's paw. The tiny object suddenly seemed far more sinister than ridiculous.
And your wishes?
They all came true. I only wish they hadn't.
No one asked another question. Some memories were better left buried. Without warning, Morris stood, walked to the fireplace, and tossed the monkey's paw into the flames. The shriveled relic landed among the burning logs. For a moment, its twisted fingers seemed to curl. Mr. White reacted instantly.
What are you doing?
He reached into the fireplace with the poker and pulled the paw back out. Morris watched him with quiet disappointment.
If you don't want trouble, throw it back.
Mr. White turned the little paw over in his hand. It looked harmless, almost laughably ordinary.
If it's really that dangerous, why didn't you destroy it long ago?
Perhaps some mistakes are harder to throw away than others.
He stood up, picked up his coat from the chair and prepared to leave. But not without giving the final words of warning.
If you keep it, don't blame me for what follows. And if you must wish, wish for something sensible.
He picked up his bag and left. The storm swallowed his footsteps. For a few moments, the White family stood quietly around the fire. Then Herbert suddenly laughed.
Well, if we're going to tempt fate, why not ask for £200? That would clear the mortgage.
Mrs. White smiled at the joke. Even Mr. White chuckled.
£200 it is then.
He held the monkey's paw in his right hand.
I wish for £200.
Nothing happened. The room remained silent. Herbert grinned.
See, I told you.
Mr. White suddenly froze. His smile disappeared. The monkey's paw had moved. It twisted violently in his hand, like a living thing. He cried out and dropped it onto the floor. The fire crackled. The clock ticked. No one moved. Herbert forced a nervous laugh.
Probably your imagination, Father. Come on, let's get some sleep. If that paw really works, perhaps we'll wake up rich tomorrow.
Mr. White looked once more at the shriveled relic lying on the floor. For the first time, he wasn't laughing. Morning arrived with clear skies. Sunlight streamed through the cottage windows as though nothing unusual had happened the night before. The monkey's paw lay quietly on the mantelpiece, ugly, motionless, almost ordinary. Herbert came downstairs, adjusting his coat for work. He noticed his father staring absent-mindedly at the paw.
Still waiting for your £200?
Mr. White smiled uneasily.
Perhaps Morris was right. Perhaps it was all nonsense.
Herbert was ready to leave for work.
If the money does arrive, don't spend it all before I get home.
He kissed his mother on the cheek, then stepped out into the bright morning. Mrs. White watched him disappear down the village road. Neither she nor Mr. White knew. It would be the last time they ever saw him alive. The day passed quietly. Mr. White tried reading. Mrs. White busied herself with household chores, but every now and then, their eyes drifted toward the monkey's paw. Neither of them mentioned it. Neither wished to admit. They were thinking about the same thing. Late that afternoon, a man in a neatly pressed black suit appeared at the White family's gate. He stood there for a long moment, unable to gather the courage to knock. Mrs. White noticed him first.
Someone's at the gate.
Mr. White looked through the window. The stranger's pale face and hesitant posture told him everything. A moment later, 3 quiet knocks echoed through the cottage. Mr. White welcomed him inside. The visitor introduced himself as a representative from Moore and Meggins, the factory where Herbert worked.
Hello,
His
sir.
voice was calm,
I've come from the Moore
but
and
his
Meggins
eyes
factory.
never met theirs.
Please, sit down. Has something happened to Herbert?
The visitor hesitated. He twisted his hat nervously in his hands.
There has been an accident.
Mrs. White gripped the edge of the chair.
He's hurt.
The visitor closed his eyes for a brief moment.
He was caught in the machinery.
Silence. Mr. White slowly gripped the arm of his chair.
Is he in pain?
The representative swallowed hard.
No, sir. He died instantly.
The room seemed to freeze. No one cried. No one spoke. The ticking of the old clock suddenly sounded unbearably loud. The representative reached into his coat.
Moore and Meggins accepts no responsibility for the accident, but in recognition of your son's service, the company wishes to offer you compensation.
Mr. White looked at him blankly.
How much?
The representative's voice was barely above a whisper.
£200.
The words struck like thunder. Mr. White's face turned deathly pale. Mrs. White stared at him, then at the monkey's paw resting silently on the mantelpiece. For a brief, terrifying moment, they both understood. The wish had come true. Fate had kept its promise. It had granted exactly what was asked. Nothing more, nothing less. And it had collected its price. Days passed. The cheerful little cottage had fallen silent. The fire still burned. The clock still ticked. But Herbert's laughter had disappeared forever. His empty chair remained beside the fireplace. His coat still hung by the front door. Neither parent had the strength to move it. One cold night, Mrs. White suddenly sat upright in bed. Her eyes widened. A thought had struck her.
The monkey's paw.
Mr. White looked at her, confused.
What about it?
There are still 2 wishes left. Wish for Herbert. Bring our boy home.
She climbed out of bed. Her voice trembled, not with fear, but hope. Mr. White stared at her. His face slowly drained of color.
No, don't.
Why not? The first wish came true. This one can too.
She hurried downstairs, snatched the monkey's paw from the mantelpiece, pressed it into his trembling hands. Mr. White looked down at the shriveled relic. Then, memories flooded his mind.
You don't know what you're asking.
I'm asking for my son.
Silence. Mr. White's resolve broke. Slowly, he raised the monkey's paw.
I wish my son alive again.
Nothing. Only silence. Minutes passed. Mr. White exhaled slowly. Perhaps nothing had happened. Then both of them froze. Another knock. Mrs. White gasped, her eyes filled with joy.
Herbert!
She ran toward the front door. Her trembling hands struggled with the old iron bolts. Another thunderous knock shook the cottage. Mr. White remained rooted to the floor. His breathing became shallow. His eyes stared at the door. Not with hope, with dread.
Dear God.
Mrs. White cried out.
Help me! The bolt won't move! Please!
Mr. White looked toward the door. Then, at the monkey's paw lying on the floor, his eyes filled with tears. Softly, almost to himself, he whispered,
If that's Herbert, let him rest.
Another violent knock. The entire cottage trembled. Mrs. White finally pulled back the last bolt. Her hand reached for the door handle. At that same instant, Mr. White threw himself toward the monkey's paw. He clutched it tightly, closed his eyes.
I wish whatever stands outside to be gone.
Silence. The knocking stopped instantly. Mrs. White flung open the door. Cold wind rushed into the cottage. Outside, the moonlit road lay empty. Only the wind moved through the trees. Nothing else. Mr. White slowly lowered the monkey's paw. Its twisted fingers hung lifeless. Its 3 wishes were finally spent.